All right. A minute ago, my AirPods weren't working, but it seems like they're okay now. And yeah, I usually wouldn't make a video being outside. When I make videos, when I used to make videos, I really like setting up the camera and sort of just getting into the right place at home. And I think that for a long time when I made videos, I used to really like to sort of consider what I was going to do more. And then towards the end, which is probably like 6 months ago now, I would just free associate more, speak more naturally. And I gotta be honest with you, that's really the only way that I'm inclined to make a video anymore. And yeah, today I was just walking and I came out here to this beautiful spot in the Darebin Parklands here in Melbourne. And I thought I would just see what comes up. And I do have kind of like a general idea or a theme. And I want to talk about some things that really help with my mood in general, or sort of really help with my feeling level. And I don't know if this is just going to be a one sort of video deal, or maybe I'll make something else on it if there's not enough time. But yeah, I just wanted to see what would come up with that, because I've been thinking about that recently. I've just been noticing some differences in working on that stuff for myself for quite a while. So let's enjoy the space, the natural environment, and yeah, let's get into that, see what comes up. So one of the things that I've been thinking about recently in regards to this is how important consistency is for me with generally like balancing how I feel, balancing my mood. I think the reality of life for most of us is that things can be pretty demanding and chaotic. Even if you're in a situation that outwardly seems quite calm, you could be internally in a place where, you're going through a lot of stuff. You're thinking through a lot of different things. You got different responsibilities inside yourself as well as outside of yourself, right? And because of that, I think what happens sometimes is just, it's hard to realize how much energy different things are taking from you in your everyday life. Like I said, not just your external demands, but internal demands. And if you're quite a sensitive person like I am, you might have a combination of both of the internal demands and the external demands coming up. And because of that, it's not uncommon, I don't think, to feel like you're being pulled hither and thither, and that it's hard to ground in those sort of things. You hear this from people a lot. It's like, I wish I had more time for this, or I used to do this, I used to do that, I'm gonna start doing this. And I think what happens is we start making these things that we feel like we need to do, or really, just to be honest, not even need, but we feel like we want to do, the things that are gonna make our life more like we want it to be. We sort of intuitively know that these things are good for us. But like I said, those internal and external demands sort of leave us exhausted. And so we kind of, what I do is, historically, I've come up with these elaborate plans for like how I'm going to change things, and this month challenge that I'm going to do, or I'm going to go on this retreat and I'm going to do this, I'm going to make myself better. And it often comes with this strange thing for me where it's like I'll kind of, I used to do this a lot when I used to take drugs. When I used to have, I used to be a lot worse with I used to have an eating disorder really bad. And it's almost like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to be super healthy, and I'm going to be like super focused and disciplined with it. And, what would end up happening is I'd like be like, okay, I'm just gonna binge like one last time, or I'm gonna take these drugs for one last weekend or whatever. And yeah, and then what do you sort of like, it's like because you're planning to give everything up and you're going to be different, you're going to be better, it's like you want to swing from one end of the pendulum, but it's so emotionally oriented, it's so based on this like sort of grandiose vision. I see this with people quite a lot, actually, especially like people with more intense energy, such as myself, like more subjectively charged people. I see this a lot. It's like you want this like thing that's going to come up and change everything, so you make this plan, and it can be good in some ways because it gives you something to move towards. But what I noticed with myself anyway is that I used to always want to swing from one end of the pendulum to the other, and it would often be preceded by this sense of I'm going to it's like I can't just make things better, I have to first make things worse, and I think that's very indicative of how it's a kind of more emotionally oriented decision. Not that there's anything wrong with it per se, but it is something that for me never really bore much fruit, let's say. So what I've started noticing helps a lot though is having a sort of you could say it's a routine. What feels more natural for me is to say a rhythm. Is like to have this rhythm where I keep consistent with it, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not amazing. Like, for example, for me, I make sure that I practice Zazen, which is the form of meditation that I do every day. Like even if it's not some great thing, or it's not peaceful, it's not beautiful, it might be fucking ugly, but I make sure to just practice that every day. And I have a goal of like how long I'd like to do that for, but sometimes it just ends up being like 20 minutes. It's not the whole time, other stuff comes up, or I'll be with people and it doesn't allow me to do that. Or same thing with working out, like I'm not some jacked dude who's in perfect health or anything, but I make sure to work out a little bit every day. And at first it doesn't have that sort of like intensity aspect of what I was speaking about before. It's like, oh, I'm getting so fit, I'm getting so spiritual, or like reading a book, for example. It's like I'm going to engage with this story or this nonfiction book or whatever it is for a little bit. And I used to read sometimes like a book a week or more, and you think like, oh, I'm this book guy, and you're identifying with that instead. But sometimes just actually having that consistency or having that thing, even if you do it a bit, it's like that kind of Japanese concept of Kaizen. It's like a small level of improvement every day. A small level of improvement every day. So having something consistent, that really helps with my mood, man. Just knowing that I have that anchor. So even if things are shit, even if right now I'm like a lot of stuff is coming up emotionally for me, or a lot of situations are changing, situational change often like comes with quite a bit of anxiety for me. I'm sort of a neurotic person in that sense, or I'm very empathic as well, so I'll sense things that are going on in my environment. So if I can feel like my housemate's going through something, or one of my friends is going through something, or I'll really take that on without knowing it sometimes. And like I said, it's being pulled hither and thither. So having something consistent for me, which, like I said, those things for me are just practicing my meditation, not expecting to get anywhere with it or do anything with it, but just doing Zazen sheerly just to do Zazen. Like the whole point of it is just to do it, There's something in that that's very difficult to communicate, but it's like you're just practicing it for the sake of practice. It's this uprightness that you go into it with. Same with fitness. It's like I'm not trying to do it like, yes, I do have preferences and goals, but it's just doing it to be engaged with it and allowing that process to unfold. All you really need to do is show up. They're the things that I notice last, where my big grandiose visions, I'm not saying that having a big plan, or like, I know there's some psychology research that someone was telling me recently that suggests that like a bigger goal is more likely to be achieved. Where what I'm talking about is kind of contrary to that. It's more like having a simple rhythm. It's almost too simple. It doesn't seem exciting. It's not got this like new year, new me-ness to it. But it really helps for me, just having something consistent like that. Whatever it is, like I do another funny thing every day. Like, sounds kind of ridiculous, but like when I get out of the shower, I like flap the towel to get cold air on me, and it sort of shocks my system a little bit, and I do it 30 times every day, and it's like, it's, again, it's not some like great benefit, but it's just this like thing that I do consistently, and it like builds over time. What I notice starts to happen is it builds this note, or it builds this rhythm. And yeah, so that's something there, is just that consistency for me is really helpful. Having a consistent rhythm. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just something that you can ground in and that you can return to in that way adds this element that I feel like pays dividends over time. It's like an investment. You put it in, at first it's not really, but there's an exponential curve, because when I look back on it, it's like, damn, sometimes I've been in a really rough place, but there's some power in knowing that today is a day that I don't want to get up, I don't want to do shit, but you know what, I'm going to do some push-ups, I'm going to do some pull-ups, I'm going to do my zazen, I'm going to make a cup of tea, I'm going to flap my towel at myself. It just sort of, it's this engagement aspect. It's a subtle thing, but hopefully you can pick up on what I'm putting down. That's been really helpful for me with my mood over time. Another thing that this isn't always possible, I'm noticing. Like, I think I used to be a bit naive about this thing here, but another thing is, if I have the capability of it with friends or people I'm around, is it's being able to be more loving or kinder with other people in a way that, and as a caveat, it can't be like, it can't be perforced. Like, it's not like, oh, I have to be kinder to people and it's this thing I have to do, but it's this sense of like, when you acknowledge something in someone, I feel like what happens sometimes is we can feel uncomfortable acknowledging the positive aspects of other people or ourselves. It's like something, so I'm just checking, because like when I sit on these rocks in this park, it's so beautiful, but these bugs, like, I don't know what they are. They look like scarabs, but sometimes they'll just land on me and it gives me this like panic. I'll be like, ugh! I'm just waiting for that to happen, low-key. Not trying to manifest it or anything, but anyway, but I feel like sometimes we're taught to have these walls or these guards where it can make it quite difficult to acknowledge the positive aspects of ourselves and other people. So it's almost like these walls that we can build, what prevents light from flowing through in our interactions. Honestly, there have been some times where I've been in a real difficult place for a while, and someone has said something to me that it might not even be a big thing, it might just be like a kind of a basic thing, but it's like you can sense at some level where it comes from. It comes from this genuine acknowledgement, and it's like you feel illuminated in a way, and I can only assume that other people would feel the same way. So for me, like when I'm with my friends or when I'm just hanging out, maybe I'm with a stranger or something, if I observe something and I can sense in myself as a genuine observation about that person's essence, that person's character, I really always try to seek to convey it. And it's a funny thing because, like I said, there's this resistance sometimes where it's like, I don't necessarily want to say this nice thing, or I don't want to give it to myself, I don't want to give that love to myself or someone else. But when you do, it's almost like after that initial difficulty, if that's there, I do think it gets easier over time. It allows something to move through you to the other person, that it's almost like the Buddhist saying where it's like a candle doesn't diminish by sharing its flame. It's like by giving in that way, ironically, you receive more. And it's not about getting something back from the other person. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's like you create a space between you. Something in the space between you gets inflated in a way. Something in the space between you, it's like light pours through that. It's kind of a poetic way of saying it. I guess if we were to ground it more, you could say it creates a positive atmosphere, or creates a positive thread between the two of you. And that positive thread, it's a very fertile environment. It creates something that's more connected, more close, more intimate, more real, rather than divided and fabricated. So many of our interactions can be divided, fabricated, and based on persona. They're based on what we wish to convey. but they lack that genuine sense. It's like there's something about when you speak from your heart more, or you speak from your gut more with someone, or they do the same with you, that makes an interaction fresh. It's like this newness that comes between you, you know. For me, that's so beneficial to my mood, like having that positivity with other people. And like I said at the beginning there, it's not always possible. Some people they really don't, they're really not accessible. Or sometimes I might not be accessible, you know. Sometimes they're, like for me, for example, there are certain people who I get a sense from that makes me quite uncomfortable, and I notice that I'm not really that open. It's like I'm kind of guarding in a way. Or like, for example, sometimes I'm just in the kind of place where I really don't feel like I can extend myself to other people, and I'm not saying that it has to be perfect. Once again, sometimes that's just the way it is, you know. But if you can, you know, you're with your mom, you're with your dad, you're with your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Maybe it's just a little thing, but it's like, I'm trying to think of an example recently. I'm dating a girl right now who I really like. You know, she really captivates me. We've been seeing each other a couple months. And the first time I met her, something about the way she was sitting when I met her it's like I could tell she was comfortable being alone. I don't know, like it was intuitive sense. It was like I could tell by the way she was sitting that she was someone who was comfortable being by herself. And I never mentioned that until the other day. You know, I think it was like, it's Friday now, so Wednesday, I think I was talking to her on the phone, video call. And I said to her, you know, like when I first saw you, it's like there's this sense that I had that I knew you were someone who was comfortable being by themselves. And I could tell it sort of registered with her, because where it came from like a real genuine observation of me. Again, it's not about how do I make this person feel good? How do I, you know, it's not meant to be overtly calibrated or manipulative in that way. It's more of a sense of like just that genuine acknowledgement, you know. Or, you know, I got a friend recently who's had some pretty big shifts and insights in his life. And when I was with him the other day, I was saying to, you know, you feel a lot more centered and a lot more calm. And I could tell it really meant something to him, because I think sometimes part of what's good about this is sometimes we're feeling something in ourselves. And sometimes we don't always know how to acknowledge it or give it validation. So sometimes when you have an external validation, there is, you know, I know it's a kind of a trend right now where it's like, don't seek external validation, give the love to yourself, which is great. But sometimes you do need it from other people as well. Sometimes you just need to hear something genuine from someone. You know, sometimes you just need to hear something real. So for me, that's like hugely beneficial, is not just the doing it, but the knowing that it's possible. Because it allows you to step into your relations with people in a way that's more spontaneous and more fresh. And it has a different basis. Yeah. I really appreciate that from my loved ones and the people closest to me. And I know that they can appreciate that from me. That's hugely beneficial for me. Watching these ducks over there. They're like congregating. They're like swimming around one another, just ducking. And magpie over here as well. Sort of centering into what seems most pressing. Sometimes I'll get in a thing where it's like there's 2 or 3 things I want to say at once, and I have to kind of pick the thing that's most relevant there. I have a thing. The reason I'm hesitant about it is because I feel like if I open it up, I'm gonna want to talk about it for too long. I feel like this is a bigger thing, but I'm gonna consciously try to summarize it, and then maybe if I want to talk about it again, I'll make another video. I would like to make videos again. Just haven't done it in a while because I honestly just haven't cared to be honest. For a while I was traveling and doing other stuff, and then I just been, it's a consistency thing. I just haven't been consistent with it. All right, so let's talk about this one. This is controversial. At the back end of it, like when you get down to the bottom of it, if you live your life day in, day out, doing shit that you don't want to do, and behaving in a way that you don't feel is real to you, and you get, like something that I've dealt with here is like sometimes I'll be doing my thing, but I feel judged or intimidated by other people because it's like other people, like when I was growing up, like my relationship with my dad now is incredible. My dad's one of my favorite people in the world. We've healed so much in our relationship over the last couple years, but especially the last year. I've really healed so much there. But when I was a kid, I fucking hated my dad, and he was a nightmare growing up, and he can admit it, like he knows that now. But he was a hothead, he had a lot of anger. And one of the things for him is that he used to constantly judge me and the rest of my family. It's almost like he felt like because he had a job, he had to let everyone know how hard he was working and how no one else does everything as much as him. And I feel like what he would do psychologically is he would use that as an excuse to be kind of tyrannical at home. It's like, well, you don't understand all the things. So it's like, okay, so you have a job and you work hard so you can treat people like shit. Like when you get down to it, like although he didn't want to investigate that at the time, that's kind of where it was coming from. And I think anyone with half a brain could see it, And I still experience that with people sometimes. Like I have people in my life right now who work extremely hard, and you can tell they have this kind of like pride around it. And for me, the thing is, I don't like doing that thing where it's like I have to feel like I compete with other people. I just like to come from being real. And sometimes it's difficult because sometimes, like, for example, over the last couple of months, I haven't been working. I actually lost my job. Lost my job at the university that I was working at. I was working in a mental health role at a university. And long story short is the whole team got kind of excommunicated because of policy shifts. And, when that happened, I traveled right after, and then I got back here to Melbourne, and my first thought was obviously I need to figure out how to get a job right away, And I thought about that because it was like, just like, do you want to get a job right away? Like, do you want to just rush straight into getting another job? And it was like, no. The answer was honestly really no. I actually felt like I needed some time I wanted to focus more on art recently, on painting. I wanted to, I'm moving soon. I'm leaving Melbourne. I didn't want to just jump into using all my time to do that. And I know that I can get by. And, I've not been financially perfect. It's not been super easy all the time. But if I'm honest with myself, it's like, I don't really want to do that, And I can tell that it triggers some people when you say that. Because there's this pride, right? There's this cultural pride we have where it's like our culture rewards conscientious, industrious people. It does not reward people who follow their heart very much, unless the direction of your heart happens to be in line with the cultural values. Funny enough. So the bottom line of it is, though, if you have a sense right now that you need to take some time off, or you need to separate from some people, or maybe you need more engagement, maybe you need a new romantic situation, I don't know. Maybe you need to spend some time making art. Maybe you need to travel for a little bit and you need to figure out how to make that work. And sometimes, you got to work hard for a few months to put together the funds to maybe do the things you need. That makes sense. But the essence of the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you're doing things out of fear and out of a sense of obligation so much that you can't even hear the voice of your own heart and the voice of your own soul, the voice of your own sort of instinct, I guess, there's a hollowness to that. And I think a recent example, this channel is not about this kind of thing. But a recent example of that is, I'm not going to go into a whole thing about it, like I said, but recently we've seen a lot of people who are the hardest working, most highest status people in society get involved with something quite messy. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. There's been a bit of a scandal recently, some big names involved. And it's really funny because I think, again, from a purely cultural level, what we tend to do is we tend to idealize and sort of, these people kind of grandstand as like the pillars of modern culture and society. There are books wrote about and by these people sheerly just about how they did everything they did. And we look at them like these heroes. And if only we could be in quarter of the position they could be, or earn what they made, or work as hard as they do, be as productive as them. It's like then, we'd be amazing too. But the funny thing is, when you look at these people's decisions like that, the kinds of decisions that these people make, the kind of choices these people make, these are choices that actually come out of a serious sense of lack and hollowness and deep emotional immaturity. And often, the way that manifests externally is it harms other people. And that's what we're seeing recently with a lot of these folks. I'm not trying to take down the elites or anything like that. There are people who are incredibly conscientious and industrious and successful and productive, and they're amazing people with amazing hearts. Of course, there's all kinds in the world. The point I'm making is how much time do we take to actually sit and listen to, like, what is it that I really want to do? Maybe I don't know. Maybe if I really ask myself, what do I want out of life? Maybe what comes up is I'm not sure. Maybe it's like, okay, well, maybe I need to be not sure for a while. But it's so easy to grab onto the thing that your culture programs you to think that you want, that it's hard to sometimes distinguish your voice from the voice of the masses, And I think that just my sense of what's fulfilling and what helps with my mood is knowing that there are probably like 3 or 4 things that I really value and that are more close to my essence. And it's my obligation to stick to those things, and to give myself to those things. I think they're the things that really fulfill, because I know that it's coming from me genuinely and not just, how many times do you meet people who they have all the bells and the whistles, they have all the things they thought they wanted, and they feel empty? It's almost like a cliche now. It's a trope. How many movies or songs or how much comes out where it's like, oh, I thought I would have it all, but I didn't. And it is almost just repetitive to me. Because it's like, of course you didn't, because those things are all external to you, Those things are all things that you believed, but they're not really that close to your direct everyday experience. Same with your work or your art. It's not just about making the thing or getting to the place, but it's also the process of it. Because really, like, this moment here is all you fucking got, So it's like, it's not going to get any better or any worse than this. Like, yeah, sure, like, your character will change over time. Hopefully you evolve over time. But really, this is it. So day in, day out, how do you want to design this? Like, how do you want to make this moment the way that, like, how do you want that to be? Rather than, where do I want to be in the future? It's a very obsessive and very addictive way of thinking. And for me, it's been very liberating. It's helped my mood enormously. Just to not fucking worry about it so much, And actually, interestingly enough, my dad has helped me a lot with that, because sometimes I'll be stressed out about some shit and I'll talk to my old man. And, one of the things he said to me when he came over to Melbourne last year, he came over like 6 or 7 months ago, I think. And I remember the last night that he was here, I was telling him about this situation. I was, running my mouth about something. And I could tell that he didn't really fully know how to respond to everything that I brought up. But it's almost like, I think unconsciously, probably, he went from his mind to his heart. And what he did really helped me, and yeah, that's why I remember it, because he just stopped and he was just like, hey, look, everything's going to be all right. And there was a quality to what he said. I could tell it came from his lived experience. Because like I said, my dad's not had an easy life, you know? And he's doing better than he ever has. And it's like, in a strange way, yeah, sure, his circumstances have improved to some degree. But I think the reason he's doing so much better is actually mainly because he's accepted himself and he's surrendered to some degree with life, you know? Nothing's perfect, but he's a complete different person because of that. And I don't think you have to wait until you're way older to realize that as well. Maybe you do. Maybe, you know, it's different for everyone. But for me, sometimes I just realize it's like, all I got is this. Why am I fucking worrying about tomorrow or whatever? Like, yeah, I'm gonna need to make sure my bills are paid. I need to be responsible. I'm not saying I'm just gonna, you know, take ayahuasca and drive around in the mystery mobile. Grow my dreads out. I'm not saying that. It's like, yeah, you got to take care of your situations. It's different for everyone. Read between the lines, and hopefully this maps on to you if you get anything from this, if you're still watching this. But if you're not doing it the way that you want to do it, then I don't know. I feel like it's worth looking at that. That's helped my mood tremendously. Just being more real about connecting to what's going on here, being more honest with what comes up here. That's like the deeper end of it. I think maybe we'll talk about another time, is being able to honestly penetrate into what's coming up for you right here. Not judge it, not hate it, you know, not need to fix myself or change myself. I think that's where that comes from a lot of the time. And I think, interestingly enough, I think a lot of our culture, that the fuel of the kind of way of thinking I've been talking about comes from this sense of, it's like we take the natural difficulty and struggle of human experience, and then we commoditize things to make us feel like we can fix them later. Where really, all that really does is put you in your fucking head, and you're not really even connecting to your experience in general. So what do you think's going to happen? It's going to happen in 40 years? What if you get hit by a truck tomorrow? You know, stranger things have happened. Something that's really helping my mood. There is like just this kind of tiny, like, not tiny, it's significant, but this one last thing that I want to say as well, and it's going to sound kind of out of a lot more superficial than the other things I've said. But damn, like, you know, when I eat healthier, I'm just serious, like when I eat healthier, when I make sure I'm taking like good quality bioavailable vitamins, minerals in my diet, I'm sort of timing my food a bit better, doing a bit of intermittent fasting along with like the workout routine and stuff. It's amazing to me what something like having the right levels of these vitamins in your body does. It's shocking to me. It's like an antidepressant in and of itself. And I wouldn't say that if I hadn't gone off and on these things so many times that I felt those differences. But I sleep better when I take magnesium. You know, I have better energy levels when I balance out my omega-3s and take vitamin D3, K2 complex, you know. And again, it corresponds to the consistency thing. So that's something else. I mean, I'm not going to go into it in this video. I'm not an expert on any of that, but making sure your nutrition profile is good, your sleep's good, things like that, all the stuff, you know, we all know all that. 'Cause it seems so random compared to the rest of the stuff I said there, but that's definitely something that helps with my mood. Anyway, I'm going to shut my face. It's been like 30, I'm looking 33 on the clock as I said it. And yeah, I don't know if I'll post this, but I just felt like filming something out here, and it's been nice to just sort of say what comes up. Maybe I'll listen to this while I go to the shops and get my groceries right now. But I hope everyone's doing well. I'm sorry I haven't made a video for a while. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses about it. I just haven't done it. But I am looking forward to making some stuff in the future. Maybe I'll just do them when I come out like this, or maybe I'll set up the camera and all that stuff. I hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are. I hope things are good for you. And I used to say I'll speak to you very soon, but who knows, it could be a year before another video comes out. Just for like the few people who still watch my videos, this is anyway. But yeah, I hope to see you soon, and if not, I'll see you when I see you. Bye.